reduce her sentence by testifying to Congress. At least, that's what he's saying.
So the one thing that would hold over her head is if we find out she lies, she goes back to her original sentence. And that's looking at 5 times. And if she's looking at maybe parlaying this into reducing her sentence, then we could have some leverage there.
Congress doesn't have any control over Maxwell's sentence, but if you're trying to make it sound like this is politics rather than justice for the victims, well, again, not sure what you would do differently. Democrats are screaming bloody murder about the apparent quid pro quo being cooked up at the DOJ. Senator Shelton Whitehouse questioned whether Blanche was effectively operating as Trump's private lawyer. Is he really going as Deputy Attorney General, or is he going de facto as Trump's personal criminal attorney, Tom Hagen style? Did Todd Blanche stick a horse's head into the jail when he met with Maxwell? Well, we don't know, because there was no independent party there to witness it. I mean, Bondi has fired a lot of lawyers for failing to zealously represent their clients, and by their client, she means Donald Trump. On that, she's been entirely clear. She even called the DOJ his lawyers. And you know what they say? If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a nakedly corrupt quid pro quo being negotiated right in our faces while the real victims are ignored. Again, Maxwell's meeting with Blanche was under proffer immunity, which protects her statements in that interview from being used in criminal proceedings unless she lied. According to her attorney, Maxwell was asked about roughly 100 individuals involved in Epstein's network and answered all questions. Prosecutors have yet to clarify whether that immunity extends beyond the DOJ interviews. Meanwhile, we're finally hearing from Maxwell's lawyer about what she wants, and unsurprisingly, she wants a lot. In a letter to the House Oversight Committee, Marcus said, "As you know, Ms. Maxwell is actively pursuing post-conviction relief, both in a pending petition before the U.S. Supreme Court and in a forthcoming habeas petition. Any testimony she provides now could compromise her constitutional rights, prejudice her legal claims, and potentially taint a future jury pool." Her legal team demanded formal immunity from prosecution, a deposition conducted outside her Florida prison, advance access to all committee questions, and a delay in testimony until after resolution of her pending appeals, including one for the Supreme Court. Without those assurances, Maxwell's attorney said she would invoke her Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. The House Oversight Committee has already subpoenaed Maxwell for a deposition scheduled the week of August 11th, but committee officials have signaled that they will not grant immunity, which is a central condition of Maxwell's cooperation. Maxwell's legal team emphasizes that progressing with the deposition without her protections would imperil her rights and potentially bias future criminal proceedings, which, yeah, no kidding. Of course, she'd prefer to say whatever she needs to say privately to Blanche and get that sweet Trump pardon and then ride off into the sunset. If she gives a deposition, it opens the door to additional prosecutions, and she also does not want to deal with prosecutors that would require her to cooperate with law enforcement and then testify at a bunch of criminal trials as part of an immunity deal. She also doesn't want to face a bunch of righteously angry Democratic and Republican politicians questioning her about all the crimes she committed against children. It would be nearly impossible for her to give testimony without opening the door to all sorts of questions that would criminally implicate herself and other people. So, think about it. If she names names, lawmakers are going to want to know all the details. They're going to demand to know what she told Blanche, and they're going to know what other evidence possibly exists to verify her claims, and she can't get into all of it without creating a much bigger problem for herself and possibly for Trump.
Now, all this time is why it's so important to get a great lawyer when you're dealing with your own case. Now, after I started this channel, every week I'd get hundreds of comments and emails from viewers who were dealing with legal problems. They'd ask, "Can you help me find a lawyer? How do I know if this attorney is any good?" And there's a massive gap in our justice system. Is that people don't know how to find the right lawyer for their specific situation. They're scared, they're overwhelmed, and they end up doing nothing or hiring the first attorney who calls them back. And that really bothered me. So I started to wonder, what if there was a different way? What if we could build a law firm that actually lived up to the values that I talk about on this channel: transparency, accessibility, and putting clients first instead of chasing lawyers. A firm where you don't need to pay anything up front, and your lawyers won't get paid if you do, to maximize your opportunity for justice. So a few years ago, I decided to fix that problem. I decided to start my own personal injury law firm, and honestly, it wasn't an easy choice, but I realized I was in this unique position. I had this platform, this community, and the experience. To get rich, trust me, there are easier ways to make money than starting a law practice. But we did it because access to justice shouldn't be a luxury. Because finding the right legal representation shouldn't feel like playing Russian roulette with your future. And when you work with my firm, you're not just getting a lawyer. You're getting a team that understands that behind every case is real person, real stakes. If we can't represent you or you're in a state where we don't practice, we'll take the time to try to match you with an attorney in my personal network of lawyers. A national network of some of the best lawyers in the country who actually specialize in what you're going through, located right where you are, not just whoever happens to be available. So if you're dealing with a personal injury, a card progression, data breach, sexual harassment, a social security workers' comp issue, give us a call on the number on the screen or click on the link below. Now, I can't represent everyone that watches this channel. I wish I could, but what I can do is make sure that when you need legal help, you have somewhere to turn to that you can trust. So whether it's me handling your case or the incredible attorneys we partnered with, you'll get the same principles of honesty and education that we bring to every video. And if you're dealing with a legal issue and you're not sure where to start, check out the link in the description. Let's have a conversation about how we can help you find not just a lawyer, but the right lawyer for your situation. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, making sure that life is complicated, you don't have to face it alone. Which is why when you need a lawyer, you don't just need a legal team, you need the Eagle team.
Oh, shit.
Sorry, but making comments on influence is very healthy. It's staff companies. It's for me. Let's go. It's just a show for a great show. A great show for you. Author Peter Lyman will be the right to start. Discussing Israel and Gaza. So, start your raising emails there. Let's be tonight with the name of Donald Aloysius. As you know, this has been embroiled in Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking scandal. Didn't let anyone who was innocent. Accusation of this time did what anybody who was innocent would do. He fled the country. George. That's probably not the right answer. To leave his troubles in the United States behind and finally gain
Don't fucking chase the bot down, you fuck.
himself in the Epstein's. Watch their trade deal with the sorry, yes, you there, from the Inverness Castle Times. What's the word that was powerful? Yeah, this is what guns. You're in the same story. Oh, you gotta be kidding.
Where's Pastor?
Just got rewatched like 3 months ago. Question about this trade deal sinking both of our economies with tariffs. How high do I have to make the tariffs before you guys shut the Of course, I didn't expect the media to move on. Trump has trouble doing so. And so it was. On the day of striking a trade deal with the EU, Donald Trump presented once more, this time for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, its classic Epstein defense. 13 reasons why I'm not involved with that one. Smiles were run by the worst scum on earth. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. Which is why I can't release it. It's simple. If I, Donald Trump, was in the files, they would have released it. So clearly, in the files, but of course, very clearly in the files. drawing of Epstein. Drawings. I'm not a drawing person.
Why is he chasing us?
Cannot physically even perform the task of drawing. That's the first skill. I'm infiltrating a black hole. I cannot draw nothing. Not ever. Although, sometimes you would say, well, you throw anything out to 4 lines into the roof, you know, charity, so. But I'm not a drawing person. I don't do drawings of women, that I can tell you. I mean, sometimes people would say, when you draw a woman, you draw a parenthesis for breasts and a triangle. Push for child. All the drawings punctuation and geometric shapes to treat. Some would see a naked woman, of course, others would see a hole. Holding up enough lines on the board.
Performance in
And Trump Spencer did end his relationship with Epstein in false. Perhaps a look into why he ended it will exonerate Trump. That's such an old history. Very easy to explain, but I didn't want to waste your time by explaining it. He did something that was inappropriate. What he said was, see, got something there. That's why they're good friends. See, Donald Trump recognized that Epstein had finally crossed the line. Now, for me, obviously, this explanation of where's the stop the favor. Trump went on to describe Epstein's inappropriate behavior, and we don't hear what was the Rubicon that Epstein crossed. Epstein crossed. And I didn't know. And I said, no, don't do that again. Some people are worse than people. I said, no, don't do that again.
Go ahead. You take it. You take it.
Yes.
You take it. It's alright.
It's Jeffrey Epstein, the sex trafficker. To his dark side. Trafficking, I was like, okay. But he was also a low-level employee poacher. Mr. President, do you want to slice this bologna any thinner? By the way, I never went to the island. Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. Believe that Bill Clinton went to the island only 20 times? I mean, the Diamond Island snacks. There's probably still parrots alive on the island. Going, female, where did they do that?